So, what is your take on the Jimmy Kimmel stuff, Stu? Where am I missing it?
Well, I think you're going to get pushback from both sides probably on it at some level, which, I guess you're used to at this point. This is your life. I think the left is going to say there is pressure from the government here, and they're very upset about that. Now, I can't even note how I feel about that because I'm so overcome by rage at the hypocrisy of them complaining about government cracking down on speech. I can't even. Twitter files.
Thank
you. I mean, there's 100 million examples of this. Twitter files is a great one, though. The standard we had to hit to prove that story mattered was like we needed to have Joe Biden pounding on the windows of the office building at Twitter, screaming at them to take off individual conservatives. That's the standard we had to hit for that story to matter. We have all sorts of emails from the government pressuring these companies to say, pull down this speech. They shouldn't be able to say this. They shouldn't be able to say that.
And the White House is very concerned about this, and the White House is thinking about taking action.
Yeah, and I think like that part of it too, and it was behind the scenes. Now, it was also public, but it was more than that behind the scenes. Now, we might find out that this was going on behind the scenes with Brendan Carr. I don't know. We'll talk to him about it. We'll ask him. It's hard to separate the hypocrisy here and how infuriated I am that they would even make these arguments to even come up with what my preferred policy would be, which I think is pretty similar to yours. If the left wants to join in unity to work with us to defang all of these three-letter agencies from going through and ruining all of public life, I cheer it on. Put a bill on there today, Chuck Schumer.
Me too.
We will all vote for it. I would love that. These are all of their organizations with their rules organizing these policies that are lining up against private interests. This is all their stuff. None of us wanted any of it.
Right. And this is why you don't make those agencies more powerful. This has been our point the whole time. You make them powerful. Somebody that you don't like comes in and wants to play the game the way you've been playing. You're not going to like it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they're accusing us of doing. Wait a minute. Doing what you were doing? Using the agency that you created to do these kinds of things, the IRS targeting conservatives, the FCC targeting conservatives, the White House targeting conservatives. I mean, yesterday the FBI their Arctic frost probe was released. This is the FBI targeting 100 GOP groups. Okay. Including the Republican Party, the Republican National Committee, the RNC, the Republican Attorney General Association, Trump political groups. They were all placed under FBI investigations. Okay, it was part of this Operation Arctic Frost, and it was politically investigating Trump, using partisan FBI agents and DOJ prosecutors so they could improperly investigate everything about the Republican Party. Now, nobody's saying anything about that. I want to defang the FBI so it cannot do that to the DNC or to the RNC. I want to defang this. This is what we call the weaponization of government. And if you don't like it, like Stu said, we will stand with you shoulder to shoulder to defang these things. Shoulder to shoulder, I will stand right with you saying the government shouldn't have the power to do that. Let's get rid of this agency, or let's defang this agency to the point to where it can never target anybody on any side unless you're breaking the law. That's what I want.
Yeah, I'm fine with getting rid of the government licensing of these stations. There's all sorts of stuff we can go down if this is what you actually want. But of course it isn't. They want all of this power. I mean, Glenn, we talked to a man who the Department of Justice sentenced to prison for posting a Hillary Clinton meme.
Yes. Prison.
They sentenced him to prison for it. Not the prison of the Hollywood home of Jimmy Kimmel, where he now has to get paid tens of millions of dollars to stay home because a bunch of the stations that carry him don't want his show anymore. Not that. They wanted to put him in prison. He lived through a decade-long legal struggle to fight off prison time for posting a meme. This is insanity, Glenn. This has happened over and over again, and the hypocrisy is there. But as you point out, the question here is, and I don't think, and this is, of course, the problem with today's media, I don't think many people actually listened to the entire Brendan Carr interview. Again, we can ask him about this ourselves. I'm sure he'll come on with us today or tomorrow.
Yes.
But, he talks often about, they're I think it was Benny Johnson who was interviewing him, and he kept asking him, well, what do you think? Should he be pulled off the air? And what he said over and over again, he didn't take a position on that because he said, it's very possible we might need to be the judge in a case that comes up. Now, we have to deal with this our entire lives. Our business is built around whether the FCC deems us able to broadcast.
I was 13 years old when I had to take a test at the FCC office in Seattle, Washington. 13 years old, trying to get my third phone license.
I don't even know what a phone is because it's not the kind of phone we talk on. I had to get a third phone license at 13 years old so I could just talk on a microphone. Okay? That's how crazy it was. I've dealt with the FCC my whole life. I despise the FCC. I despise them. But I know their rules, and I abide by their rules because that's the rule of law. You want to get rid of the FCC? I am with you. But you know why the right or the left doesn't want to do that? Because they have used the FCC to strangle people like Rush Limbaugh, me, Sean Hannity, anybody. They've used them when they had control to strangle us almost to death, and yet we still survive. You know why? Because ours is real. Our people actually listen to us. It's not like Jimmy Kimmel that is, Jason, Jason's still doing the research trying to find out what Jimmy Kimmel's actual ratings are. What place is he that so far that you can find in all of, remember, Tucker Carlson left when he was second in all cable news. Where is Jimmy Kimmel's show ranking on all network shows?
So this is complicated because of ratings. On one of these I can find he's around 150th, but on another one I'm doing, it ranks about 120 shows on primetime shows. He ranks anywhere from 95 to somewhere between 110 and 120.
Okay. Yeah.
So dead last, pretty much, in all of these.
Right. And he's in the group of, you know what? Find the ones that are around, in the 90s. Find the shows. Let's see if anyone has ever seen any of these shows that are at 110.
Yeah, and we've mocked Stephen Colbert for losing tens of millions of dollars as he has been doing. He crushes Jimmy Kimmel in the ratings. Just talking about Colbert, who is a complete failure, he's still dominating when it comes to this. And what's funny about this is the essential concept here is that Trump doesn't want anybody making fun of him, and they're trying to get everybody thrown off the air, all of his political enemies. I'm sorry, one place you can go and hear jokes about Donald Trump probably tonight, I don't know if he's on hiatus, but is Stephen Colbert's show, who's still on the air. We had this whole situation with South Park where they're constantly mocking Donald Trump. The merger still went through. There is no reason to believe that Donald Trump is trying to get everybody off the air that disagrees with him. This is a pretty unique case. This is a case in which Jimmy Kimmel, which, by the way, he wasn't really even making jokes about Donald Trump. He was making, he was basically mocking the situation. I mean, he wasn't mocking. He was also mocking Trump, but he was mocking.
He was lying.
Yeah, and he was lying about the situation.
Offense. He's lying. I don't care if you want to mock. I think you're a despicable human being. You're not changing my view on that. Mm-hmm. So continue to mock all you want, Jimmy Kimmel. You're wrong for mocking a situation like that. But you were lying. That's where the FCC will get involved. If the FCC does get involved, because the big thing with the FCC is, are you serving the public interest? Lying openly lying about something is not serving the public interest. That's the thing with the FCC, okay? They're not making something up. You are knowingly lying about a very important thing. Imagine, this would be like Johnny Carson, or who was the guy, I think it was Carson, after Martin Luther King is shot, if he would have gone on and said, it was Martin Luther King's family that killed him. It was all his supporters that killed him. That's what Jimmy Kimmel did. That is the same exact example. It was the Democrats that killed RFK. They're going to do everything they can to make sure that that it's not found out that the shooter of RFK was actually a member of the Democratic Party. Johnny Carson wouldn't have done that because there was no evidence of that. In fact, all of the evidence went the other way, the exact opposite way on both of those examples. You can't do that. That's just lying. You're not serving the public. What you're doing instead is you are hurting the public and the public's interest and hurting the republic. That's stuff you can get sued for, bare minimum, and maybe lose your license.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, of course, what Trump has done with some other lawsuits when they've lied about this stuff. He's sued them directly and won, or at least pressured them into settling, which, again, all this stuff is stuff you could complain about if you're any other party on earth but the modern Democrats.
Correct. And here's how you solve it. This is how I have solved. When Van Jones in the White House came to complain and put pressure on Fox, went into Roger Ailes' office and sat down, Roger said to them, look, if he's made a mistake, we'll correct it right now. Just give me a list of all the things that he said is untrue. They couldn't produce a list because there wasn't anything. They came back 2 weeks later and said that I had said that Van Jones had gone to prison when he only went to jail. And I corrected that. That night, I corrected it. But that was the extent of my lies, okay? They said I was lying about everything. The way to correct that is to point it out and correct it. Jimmy Kimmel is not willing to correct this. Now, he might be now, but he wasn't then. If you got it wrong, you lead with your mistakes. The next night you go on and say, you know what, I said something and I was wrong about it. Yeah. We got our facts wrong. That's how you solve it. But they're never willing to do it. Look at Colbert. The facts are you suck. Your ratings suck, and nobody wants to sponsor your show. You're costing $40 million more than what the company makes. It's not workable unless you're in a communist country. It doesn't work. And what does he do? He lies. He gets an Emmy for standing up and saying, Trump is targeting me. It's just not, it's not workable. It's not workable in a free society.
I would have been okay with Colbert if he had just come on the next day and said, actually, I said something the other day. I made a mistake. I do suck. That's actually the reason for all this.